وقضي بينهم بالحق وقيل الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Peace be with you, ladies and gentlemen, all over the world. Welcome to the second episode of Science Leads You to Allah. We've seen in the introduction that the universe must have an uncreated creator, logically speaking. Today, I'll be happy to invite you to have a look at a book called The Evidence of God in the Expanding Universe, in which about 40 scientists representing about all branches of science, biology, chemistry, responding to a question asked by Mr. John Clover Monsma. The question is there a God? Or what is your opinion about God? They responded as follows. Now, let us start by Frank Allen. Frank Allen, in his article, The Origin of the World by Chance or Design, he says, if we accept the existence of a material universe, how do we then explain it? And he gives 4 options. Option number 1, he says that the universe is just an illusion, as Sir James Jebbs argued. According to Jebbs, we then live in illusions. There are no trains, no bridges, no ships, no TVs, no cameras, no glasses, no libraries. Frank comments upon this opinion, saying that this opinion is fallacious and it does not deserve discussion or argument. The second option is that it sprang from nothing. Frank sees this option and possibility as absurd as the first one, and it does not deserve discussion as the first one as well. The third option is that the universe is eternal, and that is, it has got no beginning. Frank comments that the laws of thermodynamics shows that the components of the universe lose its temperature gradually, and it's going undoubtedly necessarily to reach the degree of the absolute zero. He continues, which is a proof that the universe began at a certain point, therefore it was made by a maker. The fourth and the last option is that the universe has got a creator, an idea he supports by drawing our attention to the suitability of life on earth, which can't be explained by chance. He gives some examples. Number 1, earth rotates around itself in the space which results in the succession of day and night. 2, it runs around the sun once a year, which results in the succession of seasons. 3, gas was covered, including all gases necessary for life, surrounds the earth. 4, this cover protects its temperature in appropriate limits. 5, rain is the source of the sweet water. 6, water properties that ensure life in the seas and the rivers. 7, the soil includes all necessary elements for plants, which in its turn turns to food for animals. 8, the size of the earth and the exact distance to the sun, its rotation speed around the sun. 9, the complex, and the last example he gives, the complex structure of proteins is the structure of proteins is mind-blowing. The Swiss mathematician scientist Charles Eugene J calculated the possibility of producing one protein by chance to be 10 to the power 120. Producing one protein by chance, billions of years are required. He estimates to be 10 to the power 243. All these facts, according to Frank, and complicated matters can't be explained by the theory of chance. Instead, there is a boundless mind, Frank calls God, who created the matter and instilled life in it, the great miracle, and instilled life in it, and prepared earth to receive life. The second scientist is Merritt Stanley Congdon. In his article, The Lesson of the Rosebush, he wonders, how can we explain the design? How can we explain the design in the universe phenomena? The relationship of the causality, integration, harmony, and balance. How does this universe work without a creator who created it and runs its matters? He adds, the whole universe proves the existence of God and his greatness and ability. When we scientists analyze analyze and study the universe, we do no more than observing the signs and traces of the greatness of God. Science is just a study of the traces of God's creation. John Cleveland Catron, in his article The Inescapable Conclusion, he says, I have to agree completely with Lord Keighley, one of the most prominent naturalists in the world. He says, if you think deeply, then science will compel you to believe in the existence of God. John adds that at the end of the article, he adds, saying, no escape from submitting that there is a God who runs the universe. Edward Lothar Kessel says in Let's Look at the Facts without bent or bias, he says the scientific research recently adds to the traditional philosophical proofs new scientific ones. Me as a believer, I welcome these evidences for two reasons. Number one, it deepens our knowledge about God. Number two, it uncovers facts to the skeptics who submit the existence of God. He adds there is a wave of going back to religion in America, and this wave includes also our science institutions. Undoubtedly, the scientific discoveries contributed in this wave. He finalizes his article saying, studying science open-mindedly makes man believe necessarily in the existence of God. Walter Oscar Londerberg says, in applying the scientific method, he says, the failure of some scientists to accept the idea of God goes back to two reasons. We mainly mention two. A, the policies and agendas some communities and atheistic organizations follow. Policies aiming at spreading atheism and combating beliefs in God, because believing in God runs against their interests and principles. B, or number two, fanaticism or whims. Paul Clarence Ibersold says in Physical Evidences of God, sound thinking and reasoning impose upon our minds the idea of God's existence. Thomas David Park says in Plain Water Will Tell You a Story, he says, I read organization and design in all what surrounds me. And he continues saying, I am not ready to accept the idea that all this is a result of a mere blind coincidence. This design necessitates a creator whom we label God. John Williams Colt says in The Universe, Complexity and God, this world we live in has reached a degree of complexity and perfection makes it impossible to be a result of chance. And he explains more, of course. Lawrence Cotton Walker says in Facts from Forrester's field book, he says, the magnificence of this universe is a sign of the creativity of the great creator. Walter Edward Lamert says in Things a Fruit Rancher's Boy Learned, he says, the study of nature shows us the ability of the creator and his sound design. Russell Charles Ernest says in Trillion of Living Cells Speak Their Message, saying, I think that every living cell has reached a degree of complexity makes it hard to be understood. He adds, millions of living cells on the face of earth witness his ability, a witness based on logic, reasoning. Therefore, I believe strongly in God. George Herbert Blount says in the reasonableness of theism, he says, pure mind can't imagine that this design has come out of nothing and chaos. Therefore, any thinking human would inevitably reach the conclusion of God running this universe. Claude M. Hathaway says in The Great Designer, he says, design, organization, order, name it whatever you want. Can't come but through two ways. Number one, chance. Number two, design. He explains, saying, the more complex the design is, the little chance remains for coincidence. We in the light of the infinite can't avoid admitting or submitting the existence of God. Albert Maccombs Winchester says, in Science Undergirded My Faith, he says, it's undoubtedly that science leads man, capital letter, leads man to better understand the greatness of God. The more man discovers in their field, the more man, please focus on this point, the more man discovers in their field and study, the stronger their faith in God gets. Dale Swartzendrober, hard name to mention, to pronounce, says in Wonders of the Soil, he says, denying the existence of a creative designer is as weird to mind as when somebody sees a great field full of beautiful yellow wheat plants and at the same time denies the existence of a farmer who planted it. Lester John Zimmerman says, in Soil and Plants, the more I study and deepen my knowledge in the study of nature, of the soil and plants, the more my faith in God increases and I prostrate to Him in admiration. Again, Robert Horton Cameron says, in Man Himself is an Evidence, he says, supplying humans with emotions is a proof of God's wisdom. He wonders, how long can man, capital letter, how long can man exist without sexual drive? It's clear he means the continuity of man, capital letter, via marriage, which innate instincts push to. Wayne U. Alt says, in Concord between science and faith, he says, we can't reach God directly, since God is not a matter we can, is not a matter we can test, but we can reach Him through faith, which is supported by scientific proofs, which indicated the existence of what he refers to as the first cause. Paul Ernest Adolph says, in God in the medical practice, he says, I firmly believe in God. This belief is not only a result of spiritual experience, but also working in medicine has strengthened my faith. Cecil Boyce Haman. Cecil Boyce Haman says in of Flowers and Baltimore Oriole, wherever I direct my sight, wherever I direct my sight in the world of science, wherever I direct it, I see proofs of design, order, creativity, and a superior creator. Yes, I believe in a creator who created the universe and protected it. He adds, this belief doesn't go back only to the influence of American culture upon me. No, but instead it goes back to the scientific views of the wonders in the universe. Andrew Conway Evie says, in the absoluteness of the certainty of God's existence, he says, believing in God is the only means which gives a sense to this existence. It makes no sense. It makes sense to the human existence more than it's a mass of matter or energy. He adds, a denier of God cannot deny the existence of God. A denier of God can't deny the existence of God, but can't present a proof supporting their denial. Ladies and gentlemen, all these scientists consider the existence of a designer, a creative designer, a maker of the universe, consider this fact, this idea, logical. And this idea, this conclusion supports the conclusion we have reached in the introduction, that the universe was and is made by a creator. I repeat, the universe is made by a creator. Hold on, Mr. Sharof, hold on. These scientists you brought are not prominent. What are you saying? Okay, my friend, to be satisfied, the next episode will be for some nobelists supporting the fact. See you. Thank you very much.